Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking the brilliant, timeless philosophy of Henry David Thoreau to fundamentally rethink our frantic, modern lives. We live in this era, right, where we want to experience absolutely everything, but in doing so, we kind of end up ignoring the actual quality of what we're experiencing. So, get ready, because we're going to redefine what true success actually looks like through the lens of individual purpose and authenticity.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to ask yourself honestly, are you exhausted? We're constantly drawn to lifestyles packed with busy schedules, highly active social lives, non-stop travel, and incredibly elaborate goals. We end up constructing these lives intensely focused on all these external achievements, but ironically, we focus very little on ourselves.
You see, the whole busy life ideal is heavily promoted to us by our culture. It's in the movies we watch, the shows we stream, best-selling books, and endlessly on social media. For much of the modern world, this frantic lifestyle is practically transfused right into our blood. But the life we're sold comes at a super steep price. We completely neglect the internal, everyday quality of our actual moments. We are literally so busy building the resume that we totally forget to experience the reality.
Which brings us to Section 1, the busy life trap. Let's explore the specific, hidden modern costs of this unintentionality.
Look, inevitably, we all have to give up some portion of our time to things we don't want to do. That's just life. But the essential question we have to ask ourselves is, how much, why, and for what? Time is the absolute only commodity that cannot be earned or bought back when it's gone. In a very fundamental sense, it's the only thing we actually have. Yet, we so haphazardly exchange it for people we don't truly value, tasks we couldn't care less about, just to meet online expectations or some random cultural conventions.
I really want you to think about the absurdity of this for a second. Would you let a total stranger just walk up and take your car? No way. Would you let them reach into your wallet and take your money? Of course not. We fiercely protect our stuff. But for some reason, we freely let outside expectations, random people, and trivial experiences just take our time. We let them take our days, our months, and eventually our decades without even putting up a fight.
Moving on to Section 2, Thoreau's radical simplicity. To figure out how to escape this trap, we're turning to a radical experimentalist from the 19th century, the American transcendentalist Henry David Thoreau. And this brilliantly illustrates his mindset. Society often views people who live simple, quiet lives as, well, unexceptional, or even losers. But Thoreau argued the exact opposite. Choosing to step away from the crowd and listen to a different drummer isn't an act of laziness at all. It's actually a deeply redeeming endeavor that requires immense discipline and wisdom.
Now, Thoreau didn't just write about these concepts, he actually lived them. He completely avoided the standard, expected career paths of his day. Instead, he moved into a tiny cabin in the woods on a plot of land owned by his friend Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he lived there by himself for years. Get this, he worked strictly 1 day a week, just enough to meet his absolute minimum material needs. The rest of his daily life, intensely focused on his passions, writing his masterwork Walden, immersing himself in nature, and focusing strictly on what he believed he truly needed. He purposefully separated from the social and cultural world.
And this quote right here, this was his core motivation. He went to the woods to live deliberately. He had this profound fear of getting to the end of his life and discovering that he hadn't actually lived it. He wanted, in his own words, to suck all the marrow out of life. He realized that a good life isn't about what you accumulate. It's entirely about what you deliberately choose to experience.
All right, Section 3, Redefining True Success. It's time for a modern pivot. Let's take Thoreau's insights from those 19th century woods and fundamentally redefine what true success means today.
Think about it like this. If we strip away society's expectations, being successful basically just means having adequately accomplished a predetermined goal. So true success in life depends completely on having mindfully determined an overarching goal for how you personally want to live, and then, actually living that way. Under this definition, someone who lives a quiet, modest, simple life in a cabin is just as successful as someone who lives a busy, culturally significant life in a high-rise, provided both are intentionally pursuing that path.
The problem is, we are completely obsessed with the outside look of success, the important meetings, the wealth, the fame, but we so rarely evaluate the inside feel of success. How does your life actually feel from the inside? Are you sane? Are you kind? Do you have authenticity and self-reliance? The source material makes a profound point here. The absolute only real failure in life is living unintentionally. You can find massive failures sitting on the highest of corporate thrones and incredible successes sitting out in small cabins.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Thoreau prioritizes truth above literally all the things we normally chase. To him, an exciting life isn't one where you're always frantically doing things to impress other people. An exciting life is simply a life where you are excited to be alive. There's absolutely nothing impressive about living a busy life that you don't actually like, especially if you don't have to.
So, the crucial point is, how do we actually apply this to the heavy expectations of the digital age? Section 4, Reclaiming Our Time Today.
We have to acknowledge right up front that living this way, it is incredibly difficult. Living an authentic, deliberate life today is like swimming against the current of social conventions. It's like trying to get back to the shoreline while the immense force of the ocean's current just pulls you further and further out to sea. The temptation to just let the current take you, to let social media define your success, is always, always present.
To fight that current, we have to actively draw down the noise. Seriously, maybe we don't always need to take that new job with the greater responsibilities if it's going to ruin our peace. We don't need to accept invitations to concerts or parties we don't genuinely care about. We definitely don't need to try and keep up with every single person we know online or constantly buy the newest device just because the camera has, what, 1 more megapixel? We need to fiercely protect our non-renewable time by keeping a relatively concise schedule with just a few important things and a few important people.
And that brings us to Section 5, Building Intentional Daily Habits. Because it's one thing to philosophize about a deliberate life, right? It's another entirely to actually construct it day by day.
An essential part of simplifying your life is defining the basic things that you actually find important. But here is the great irony of modern life. Eating well, sleeping soundly, exercising, staying hydrated. These are often the absolute hardest things to maintain. Why? Because the modern world constantly demands more of us than there is to give. When our schedules are frantic, our basic human needs are literally the first things we sacrifice.
Let's move to and see how this builds into actionable steps to overcome the chaos. You have to be methodical. Step 1. Define the basic needs you find important. That's your personal equivalent to Thoreau's essential facts of life. Step 2. Break those long-term goals into incredibly small, manageable tasks. And Step 3. Construct resilient, consistent daily routines around what remains. It's all about continual adaptation toward who you are and how you actually want to live.
I'll leave you with this provocative question to end our explainer. Your time is unbuyable. Once today is gone, you can literally never get it back. True success is simply a conscious adaptation toward who you genuinely are. So ignoring everyone else's expectations, ignoring the constant noise of the digital age, what will you intentionally do with your remaining, unbuyable time today? Thanks for joining me, and I hope this helps you live just a little more deliberately.